What is up, guys? You're listening to Sports Biz with Rashad. Let's get started with today's episode. Welcome back, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're all having a great day today. I am super excited to share this interview with you guys. Joining me on the podcast is Rachel Farrell, the Associate Manager of Fan and Partner Marketing at NFL Canada. Now, most of you probably have never even heard of NFL Canada, let alone knew it existed. So, this is your opportunity to learn more about how the NFL is working towards growing internationally. With that being said, welcome, Rachel. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Rachel Farrell. I grew up in Barrie, so a couple hours north of Toronto. I have two sisters. I'm the middle. I went to the University of Guelph for 4 years. I studied marketing there. And then once I graduated Guelph, I moved to Toronto and I went to George Brown College and did sport and event marketing. My life is sports, but I do have a little side passion for interior design.
Yeah, I actually noticed that on your Instagram page there. Um, for your kind of sports passion, where did that begin?
Yeah, that actually started when I was really young. I have a very athletic, sport focused family. I played hockey growing up. So did my younger sister. My older sister played soccer. We loved getting in front of the TV and watching sports. We just were very centered around athletics and started my passion really young.
And was it always football that you were interested in?
It wasn't actually. I started getting into sports with hockey. I'm a big Leafs fan. My whole family is, and I remember watching my first football game on TV, and I was just fascinated by it. I thought it was really interesting. I was really consumed by the culture of wow, people spend their whole day watching football. Like it's a day of the year, like it's a day of the week that people sit down and watch. And I thought that concept was really cool. But I never saw myself working for the NFL because I saw it as very American, and I thought like, how would that translate into Canada? So I was very, very much a hockey fan growing up. I'm still very much a hockey fan, but my life is now football.
Yeah, and on Sundays I find myself doing the exact same thing,
Yeah.
watching pretty much the Good Morning Football show at 10 a.m. and then watching until I go to sleep at night. And then even on Monday night and Thursday night as well.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So being in Canada, that was probably kind of difficult to get into the NFL, I'd assume.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, my path was to the NFL was definitely unexpected. So I mentioned I went to the University of Guelph and I studied marketing there, and in my last year, I started working for the Guelph Griffins athletic department because I knew I wanted to work in sport, but I just didn't know what that looked like. Like watching sports growing up, and especially being in Canada, your options are so much more limited than they are in America. And I thought, how does someone work in that industry? Like it just feels like you're watching it on TV, and then when you really think about it, like, wait, there are people behind the scenes actually pulling all of this off. Like, who are they? How do they get that job? And so, I was really fascinated by that, and I really wanted to figure out how do I do that. So I started working for the athletics department at my university and got a really basic knowledge of kind of the OUA, how it works. And then I did some research and found the George Brown College program, the sport and event marketing program. So I moved to Toronto and started that program. As a part of that program, there's an internship. And so I got my internship with TSN. And the time period that I was there was January to April, which is playoffs and Super Bowl. And Bell Media owns the broadcast rights for the NFL in Canada. And so a good chunk of my internship was really focused on the NFL. So I got to know the brand very, very well. I was just like all in for the NFL. And then it just like really timing worked out. And I knew the NFL team at that time. And it was just, they were hiring when I was done. And here we are, 3.5 years later.
Yeah, and at TSN, what were your roles there as an intern?
Yeah, so I did a bunch of the digital assets, so lower thirds, the score bugs, the snipes. I would write those out and actually send them to master control to go on broadcast. So schedule a lot of those. A lot of the promo boards that you see, it was a lot of inputting, um, where the games were being aired, what time, etc., and then sending those off to master control to go to air. That was a lot of what I did, and then I also did. Um, I kind of tried. I tried as much as I could to work with some other departments, and so I did some work with the TSN social team, which was really fun. I got to sit down and talk to some events people. It was a good experience.
Yeah, and after the internship, you mentioned that NFL was hiring at the time. What was your first role with NFL Canada?
Yeah, so my first role was quite broad. I was the coordinator of marketing and events. I had to think about which which title that was. I've had a few since being there,
Yeah.
but it was quite junior at the time, and it was very basic. And I was doing a lot of social stuff. I did a lot of youth football stuff back when I first started. And then really once I got my footing, I started owning a lot more projects there quickly, which is great. And I've touched almost every single part of the business since I've started.
Yeah, now transitioning to kind of the present day, I would say pre-COVID. What are your achievements, your roles, and kind of your day-to-day life with NFL Canada? I feel like a lot of people don't really know what they do.
Yeah, that's a good question. I remember when I saw the job posting, I thought NFL Canada, like what is that? um, yeah, and a lot of people ask me like, what do you do NFL in Canada? And it's great because our team is only 8 people. It's very small. Three of us are on the marketing team, three of us are on sponsorship, and then our MD and then finance. So our team is very small, and we all do so much, and so it's really great being so young in my career and having so many different accountabilities. Like every single day for me is really different. Every single morning when I wake up, I mean, obviously I have my meetings in my calendar, but then things will come up that are new every day, and I really like that. You get a curveball every day, and you got to deal with it, and it's great, and it's a new one. And but pre-COVID, which is key, obviously things have changed, but um, pre-COVID, and I actually got a new. We kind of did a little bit of a rejigging of the marketing team. So I post Super Bowl, I did a little bit of a swap in terms of roles, but my main accountability is managing our media partners. So I'm kind of back on the media side where I was with TSN. So again, our biggest broadcast partner is Bell Media, so I manage that relationship. So I work with them on planning. Um, their promotion plans for big tent poles. So whether it's kickoff, Thanksgiving games, postseason, we work really closely together on creative and other promo plans. We get some inventory, commercial inventory that I schedule and traffic all the inventory. We have radio spots that I kind of manage and schedule. We also have DAZN, which owns Game Pass in Canada. And so I deal with them on a lot of content opportunities. That's my biggest focus. But then I also manage our fantasy products. So we have two fantasy products in market. So I manage all of the promo plans, execution, all of that fun stuff with fantasy. And then I am also new this season, kind of the liaison between the marketing and sponsorship team. So I work very closely now with our sponsorship team in terms of getting partner campaigns live, in terms of creative execution, even to the early stages of planning, what will work, what won't work, what will resonate with our fans, what won't. So that's new on my accountabilities this season, which has been really interesting. Um, and then every day, I mean, there's new things coming up. I also manage our CSR arm. So anything to do with corporate social responsibility, I lead. We are building out Crucial Catch in Canada, which I'm leading. So there's a lot, and everyone gets to do so many things, which is really great about a small team. It can be overwhelming, but it's a good overwhelming.
Yeah, and I was gonna say with the small team, it sounds like you definitely get to dive into kind of every aspect that you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, it's great.
Now, with obviously the CFL in Canada, what kind of challenges do you face trying to promote the NFL?
So we've actually worked together with the CFL in the past. It started in 2018. We launched a CFL NFL flag program. So it was centered around, we're the two professional football leagues in this country. Let's partner together to grassroots level and grow the game together. So we launched that in 2018. And it was great. We had kids across the country playing football, and we really got kids excited about the game. There's no challenges in terms of promoting the sport or promoting the game. It's just we have worked together, and it was a positive partnership.
Yeah, and moving into your role here, what are some of the most rewarding aspects, kind of the perks and benefits that you get being in marketing with NFL Canada?
Yeah, there's a lot actually. It's a really fun job. I mean, I feel like the thing that people do wonder is, oh, do you get to go to games and whatnot? Yes, that is of course a perk and a benefit. Is I've been to a number of NFL games, which is great. I went to the Super Bowl last year. I've been to the Pro Bowl every year. Went to the draft. I mean, it's those are definitely the perks that are really exciting and really fun. And I am an events head, so I love being there and experiencing all of that. Um, and this will sound corny, but I do think that kind of like a fun piece of my job that I do really like is that the NFL is unique in Canada because we don't have a team, we don't have a stadium. And so it's always really interesting to hear how Canadians become the fan of their team. Like, how did you choose your team? Why are you the fan? Why are you a fan of the Bills if you live in Vancouver? And it's really fun to hear those stories. And you hear, oh, I liked the colors, or I heard there's an Eagles fan and he liked the wings on the helmet when he was little. Now he's a diehard Eagles fan. Like the stories in the country are so different. It's not really about your geography. It's about what kind of came to you or what you saw on TV. And those stories are really fun to hear. And I do really like that piece.
Yeah, so you kind of partially answered my next question there, but when you get to attend NFL games, do you choose the games? And when you do go to games, what are your responsibilities when you're attending?
Yeah, so there's two reasons, and this is obviously pre-COVID with borders closed. I won't be going this season, unfortunately. But so pre-COVID, there were two reasons why I would go to NFL games last season. Number one, the NFL does a fan experience program, and so you, as an employee, have to essentially apply for it. And what it is you attend an NFL game acting like a fan. So you do everything a fan would do. So you walk around the tailgate, you go to the concessions, you check out the washroom, you sit in your seat, and you look at the what's the field play look like, what's your environment like, and you kind of jot down all your notes. You get a lot of questions from fans asking what you're doing, but you really experience the game as a fan, and then you report back and you actually have a weekly touch base with the home team and present what your experience was to that team and what they can improve on, what they did great, any feedback you heard from fans. So that is something that I actually did for the first time last season. So that was a reason why I went to a few games. And then the second reason is there are actually a lot of Canadians in the NFL that people don't know about, and that is a part of my job is to bring awareness to that. And so when Canadians either have a big game or two Canadians are playing against each other, or there's a big content opportunity, that was a big reason why I would go to games last season.
Got it. So I never actually heard of that program. Is that kind of something that's open to all NFL employees, kind of worldwide, or is that just an in Canada thing? Or
Yeah, that actually just opened up to international teams. I think it was last season that it just opened up. It was only New York employees, but now it's international, which is great.
yeah, and when you got to go to the Super Bowl and Pro Bowl, what are something that kind of stood out to you there?
Yeah, so I am a big events head. I love events. I eventually do want to just have a role that is strictly events. They get me very excited and I love them and I have a deep passion for them. Just again with no stadium and no team. I mean there's not a ton we can do here in Canada. And so what I kind of worked towards it was about 2 years ago now was I actually have a rotational role essentially with the New York events team, And so I'm kind of like an extended international arm, you could say, of the New York events team, and I go down and help them with temples. So I went to draft in Nashville. I've been to Pro Bowl and Super Bowl, and that is on behalf of the events team that's not associated with the Canadian team. Um, and those experiences were amazing. You can do anything in a given day. Um, for Super Bowl, I was a part of the team that really managed the volunteers, and then really making sure that their check-in went smoothly in and out of the stadium, and then on game day, really trying to help the flow of traffic of ingress and egress. For draft in Nashville, I was kind of there's a stadium piece that was on TV a lot, and so I had to make sure that all the seats were full, and I mean, your role every day is different, and sometimes you do a big role, and sometimes you do a small role, but everything it's different and it's fun.
Yeah, and have you found that overwhelming going to be with all of those people and networking and trying to take notes and capture all the experience?
Yes, it can be. I remember when I first started, and even when I was back at George Brown, I hated networking, and still to this day, I don't. I don't love it. It can be very overwhelming and sometimes kind of awkward. Um, so it is kind of you kind of just have to suck it up and do it sometimes. But it's now, of course, with the NFL team. I mean, I've been there for 3.5 years, so I'm totally there's no awkwardness or worry there. But if I go into a new environment, meeting new people or networking, I mean, there always is a little bit of, ooh, okay, I'm out of my comfort zone. How do I get myself comfortable and want to and get myself able to chat with these people?
Yeah, and I think it's especially an important point now with COVID, trying to network and trying to move your way up while you can't actually physically be anywhere except on your laptop or on the phone. And that kind of leads into my last question here, which is, what is your best advice for someone trying to break into the sports business industry?
My best piece of advice would be to open up the lens beyond just wanting to work for a team or a league, um, especially being in Canada. When even before I went to George Brown and starting at George Brown, the lens that I had of working in sports was, oh, in Canada, you have to work for the Leafs or the Raptors, or you have to work for the NHL. Like that lens was so black and white to me. And now working in sports, it's so clear that there are so many roles beyond that. We work with a ton of different agencies on every single department of the business, and they are just as involved in the business as we are. So I would really, I mean, if you open up that lens and have that openness to working not strictly just for one team, then so many more opportunities will come your way.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I've never heard that specific piece of advice before, so hopefully that'll be of use to someone who's actually trying to break into the industry.
Yeah, I hope so.
And that's pretty much all the questions I have for today. I just want to say thank you for taking the time to come out and record this episode with me, and I hope it'll provide some value to someone.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I hope it helps some people too.
And that wraps up this episode of Sports Biz with Rashad. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you enjoyed, be sure to check us out on Instagram at Sports Biz with Rashad and support us on all other platforms. I'll catch you guys on the next episode.